Hi, I am back with Chapter 7 of the Earl on the Train. I'm just gonna get right to it tonight. Chapter 7, Change of Plans. Miss Strawberry smelled like vanilla and cinnamon and tasted like fine Bordeaux. Nick clutched her to his chest, groaning into the sudden, stupefying kiss. He ran his tongue across her bottom lip, and she opened for him, allowing him free plunder of her sweet mouth, driving him out of his head with her own rapacious explorations. God, but she was delicious. She clung to his lapels as if drowning, swept up in whatever madness this was that had overtaken them. It had rendered him powerless, and all he could do was hold her and taste her and pray it would last forever. He could lose himself in her perfect soft lips and her warm, womanly curves and never regret it. She broke the spell, sinking back down and loosening her grip. "Nick," she gasped. His breaths came hard and fast, his heart pounding out a steady rhythm beneath his ribcage. Damnation, berries, that was... She lifted a single finger and trailed it over her lips, red and swollen from their passionate embrace. Marvelous! I won't forget it. She stepped from his arms, her absence leaving a dull ache in the center of his chest. Nor I. She continued to retreat. I'm sorry we didn't have a longer time together. I will forever be grateful for your friendship. My days here in Paris were everything I had hoped and more. Thank you. Nick reached for her, opening his mouth to speak, before realizing he still didn't know her real name. God damn it all, she was going to leave him, and he would have no way of finding her. I'm very sorry that I must leave, but I can't risk missing the train. Goodbye, Mr. Masterson. I wish you could come with me. She darted in, gave him a quick peck on the cheek, and then whirled away. Nick stared after her, his brain still half mush from her kisses. She was leaving. Truly leaving. No. He had to go after her. Never mind that he had a meeting tomorrow with some English expatriate his uncle knew. He wasn't ready for this to be over. Who would distract him from his worries and problems? Who would keep him so busy that he hardly had time to even think about potions? And damn did he crave her kisses now. Nick ran the 3 blocks to his own hotel, skidding to a halt and only narrowly missing a collision with the front desk. Have my trunk taken to the train station immediately, to await me at the ticketing booth. The stunned concierge flinched at Nick's fierce tone. At once, my lord. Thank you. Nick dumped a few extra coins onto the desk to compensate for the troubles, then spun and jogged for the door. He hailed the first cab he saw, digging his notebook out of his pocket to find the address he needed. This Lord Westfield lived between the hotel and the train station. Perfect. Nick would spare the man 5 minutes and no more. He hopped into the cab, offering double the fee for a quick journey. Westfield's home was a stately old townhouse, grand but not flashy. Nick took the front stairs 2 at a time and hammered his fist on the solid oak door. A craggy-faced butler cracked it open, just as Nick was raising his hand to knock again. Someone is home, he sighed in relief. He presented his card. Lord Sharp here to see Lord Westfield on urgent business. The butler frowned down at the card, and Nick stuck his foot in the door to prevent the man from turning him away. We have a meeting arranged for tomorrow, but I have been called away on urgent business, and I must speak with him tonight. I will take no more than 5 minutes of his time. The butler reluctantly opened the door. Please wait here in the hall. Nick stepped inside and paced the atrium while the butler ambled off altogether too slowly to find his employer. Nick flipped open his pocket watch. Not enough time. He couldn't afford to be kept waiting. A minute ticked by, then another. He had just decided to abandon this task altogether when a middle-aged man in a smartly tailored suit stepped into the hall. Lord Sharp, you wished to see me? Oh, you? Now that Nick saw the man, he recalled who he was. Lord Make-Believe, a self-styled diplomat with a fake title to bolster his reputation on the continent. His life's goal was improving international relations, which made him a useful contact for Lord Ayleston and his band of spies. You are Ayleston's nephew, are you not? Yes, I am. I apologize for forgetting our acquaintance and for missing our prearranged meeting. Only a few minutes to spare. If that. He would talk fast, pass on his information, and ask his questions. No more. I hope the matter is not too dire, Westfield replied, a worried expression narrowing his dark eyes. I don't like this tendency of you young men to rush into danger, and I wish your uncle did not encourage it. Nick huffed a little laugh. I'm not rushing into danger. I'm merely pressed for time. It's not a matter of life and death. Except that life might not be worth living without her in it. Shit. Where had that thought come from? He'd known her for 3 days. 3! He'd witnessed cricket matches longer than that. But as to why I've come here, Nick continued, my uncle suggested I consult with you regarding the situation with potions here in Paris, and in France in general. You have some potions background, I understand, as well as a wide and varied network of friends? I do. I apprenticed with a chemist as a boy. Never took to it really, but I remember something of it. Enough to give me your perspective on the potency of potions about town. They've been weakening in the past few months, if that's what you're getting at. It is. The products I've investigated in the past 2 days seem weaker than I recall from my previous visits. Have you any idea of the cause? I've been looking into that. The serum supply looks to be low. My friend Batista in Spain has reported similar issues. Neither of us has discovered the reasons behind the dwindling supply. The suppliers run the same number of deliveries. There's simply less in each shipment. And the price? Is it a set price per delivery, regardless of how much serum is provided, or is it priced by dram or ounce? That I don't know. I will look into it. Can you tell me a little of the situation in Britain? Is it much the same there also? Yes, from what I have seen and what my uncle tells me, Gladstone suggested he investigate. So, the Prime Minister is involved, and the rest of Parliament? Many of us know, I suspect, but the matter hasn't been discussed. If the situation is deemed a danger to the Empire, I am to present my findings and a proposal for rectifying the situation. He couldn't keep the grimace out of his voice. Lack of serum could cause an economic crisis, and while he was prepared to speak about that, he had no notion how to fix it. If the world's serum was drying up, then alternatives would be needed. But he was no scientist, inventor, or chemist. At least with no serum, there would be nothing tempting him to drink. The grim thought almost made him laugh. Westfield stroked his mustache. If something is choking off the source, then the obstruction can be found and removed. Indeed. I'm to make my way to India to determine if that is the case. But if the source is drying up, alternative sources will need to be found. Yes, if such things exist. I hear the Americans have one, but I doubt they have enough to supply themselves and all of Europe. Nick flipped open his pocket watch. Excuse me, I ought to be going. Please don't let me keep you. You'll be sailing out of Brindisi? Yes, I plan to investigate the potion situation in Italy as I pass through. Detour to Rome, if you're able. My old friend George Ainsworth, now the Marchese di Merlot, lives just outside the city. He will have charts, numbers, and statistics for you rather than my vague words. Ilston can potions experts. In the event that we do need to search out new sources, we need the talents of a master. Nick pocketed his watch and donned his hat. Try the Folie Bergère. Westfield frowned. Pardon? Trust me. He nodded and hurried out the door. Despite the cab waiting in the street, Nick arrived at the train station just shy of 7:45. He ran to the main ticket counter where a bored porter stood with his trunk. Nick offered up a prayer of thanks and swore to patronize the same hotel whenever he came to Paris. What train leaves at 8 p.m.? He asked the man behind the counter. And overnight. Hurry, man, there cannot be all that many. The man shuffled some papers. The sleeper to Turin by way of Lyon and Modane? Yes, that had to be it. Book me all the way through. He didn't care where she was headed. He'd hop off wherever she did. He tossed money on the counter, not caring that it was probably too much. 1 moment, please. More paper shuffled. Nick fidgeted with his watch and rocked from one foot to the other. What platform? God damn it, why did this man have to do everything so slowly? 7, monsieur. Nick whirled around to face the porter. Take my things to platform 7 immediately and see that they're loaded. He handed the man one of his few remaining coins and turned back to the ticket counter. Well? More papers rustled, and the man finally passed Nick a ticket. Here you are, monsieur. 1 ticket to Turin. Nick snatched the paper and ran. His heart pounded as he tore through the station, dodging other passengers in his desperate search for the signs that would point him to platform 7. He caromed into a woman carrying a bird cage, causing the creature to let out a painful shriek. My apologies, he called in English. Realizing she might not have understood him, he shouted the same thing in French, not looking back or slowing his furious pace. Surely everyone thought him a maniac. He was acting like a maniac. Perhaps he was one. His heart leapt at the sight of the train, motionless alongside the platform. He wasn't too late. He couldn't say whether the same was true for his luggage, but at the moment he didn't care. He vaulted up onto the first car and ducked inside, leaning against the nearest seat to catch his breath. No sign of her here. He moved on to the next car, ignoring the murmurs over his labored breathing and disheveled appearance. She wasn't in the second car either, or the third. By the fourth, panic set in. This wasn't a crowded train. Empty seats were scattered all about. Had she taken some other train? Was there another 8 p.m. sleeper to Germany or Spain, perhaps? Nick pushed his way through another set of doors, refusing to accept the possibility. She was here. She had to be here. At the far end of the sixth carriage, he caught a flash of pink silk. All the tension drained out of him. My sweet berries. She sat with her back to him, and he approached quietly, stopping just behind her shoulder. Excuse me, miss. Her head jerked around, her jaw dropping open. Nick, or Mr. Masterson, you were on this train? Apparently. She was still gaping at him. Shit, had he scared her? He hadn't meant to scare her. Her shock faded into a dazzling smile, and his knees nearly gave out. She was pleased to see him. Thank God. He gestured at the place opposite her. Is this seat comfortable? Nick laughed and sank onto the soft upholstery. All was right with his world. There's chapter 7.